Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans are an absolute recruiting heater in the class of 2025. And notice now which side of the ball they're heating up on when it comes to the recruiting trail. We'll talk about all that and more right here on the On3 YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed. This show, The Hard Count, is live not once, not twice, but 3 times a week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, so make sure you're dialed in. Don't want y'all to miss a minute of what we got going on right here. Recruiting does not sleep. We don't sleep on it on this channel. It's college football year-round, so thank you in advance for being subscribed. Shout out to my folks out there in Los Angeles. All right, USC was on a tear yesterday. Got 4 commitments in the class of 2025, all of them on the defensive side of the football. Remember that side of the football that people said Lincoln Riley can't really manage or coach and USC can't play defense? We'll talk about that in a second here. They are currently the number 3 class in the class of 2025. A long way to go from signing day, I understand that. But they have 3 individuals in this class now from the defensive line. That's massive. Very, very massive. Probably the most massive commitment they got yesterday was a flip of a one Justice Terry, who is the number 8 prospect overall in the class of 2025, and they flipped him from Georgia. A guy who's from the state of Georgia, a guy who's been committed to the Bulldogs, and they flipped him to USC. That's absolutely massive for a number of reasons. The obvious, kid's super talented, right? Isaiah Gibson's also a guy that landed. He's from the state of Georgia. He's an edge defender, highly rated guy at this point in the 2025 cycle. They got some talent now in the trenches. But the reason why this is important that they have guys in the trenches, the obvious part I just mentioned, ton of talent there. You're starting to up that talent level, that talent factor as you move into the Big Ten, which is a line of scrimmage league. But look at where these guys are from, because I think that matters here. I do. I understand that where you're from isn't the end-all, be-all. But if we're tracking the blueprint for teams that are successful in the trenches, where are they getting their players from? Probably in the southeastern part of the United States, right? From the state of Georgia, from the state of Florida, from the state of Texas. That's where USC is now acquiring talent from. I understand it's very early in the class of 2025. They only have single-digit commitments right now, as is pretty much everybody else in the country. But here's my thing. If you want to make the same meal as those teams in the SEC, you want to have those big dudes up front, you want to be intimidating on the line of scrimmage, you want to be able to stop the run, get after the quarterback, all that at the level at which those teams in the SEC do, like the Georgias, like the Alabamas, well, you got to shop on the same aisle in the grocery stores then. We talked about Lincoln Riley previously going from eating out, going to the transfer portal and acquiring players, to more sustainable model of acquiring talent, which he's now crushing it on the recruiting trail in 2025. That's great if you move from eating out to groceries, but which groceries you get to make the meal is the key part here. Lincoln Riley, by how he's acquiring talent right now, again, early in 2025, hard to not be encouraged if you're a USC fan. Now, the thing that I think is changing here is twofold. The philosophy that USC is approaching the defensive side of the ball with, and then the sales pitch that they are now able to make with this new defensive staff. Because we had Lincoln Riley on this very show a couple of weeks ago. So go check that out. It's on the On3 YouTube channel if you want to go and watch that full conversation back. But he said something that stuck with me when we asked him about how he put together his new staff. He said, we took a step back, reevaluated everything, and we shot for the stars with an emphasis now on development. So when you shoot for the stars, the obvious byproduct of that is when you land high-profile coaches, you probably end up landing a pretty high-profile pedigree as well. Danton Lynn from UCLA has coached elite defenses, has coached in the NFL. Eric Henderson, background in the NFL. Recruits see that, okay? They see that big-time pedigree, and they understand that those are individuals that can help them get to where they want to go, which is making a whole lot of money in the NFL. Those are guys that say, hey, I've been there, I've done that. I've coached guys that have gone and accomplished what you want to accomplish. Come play for me at USC. Aaron Donald was a part of this visit weekend for USC. Eric Henderson having coached for the Los Angeles Rams, like that matters. That matters a whole lot to these kids. So that's the sales pitch part of this. Now the philosophy we've already addressed a little bit, but Lincoln Riley and this staff understand, hey, as we move into the Big Ten, it can't be a we score 50 just to beat you. Like it's going to be a foot race every single Saturday afternoon. We're just going to score half 100 and call that our day. No, we have to be good, more than good. We have to be borderline elite if we want to win this conference in the Big Ten on the line of scrimmage, starting on the defensive line. You got to be great in the trenches to stop Michigan's style of running the football. Probably Ohio State in the future here with Chip Kelly and those stable of backs they have going forward. Like, I don't think that's going to change too much in the Big Ten. USC understanding that and addressing that by nature of how they're attacking it right now in 2025. Development now, it still matters. Development still matters. By nature of these kids committing to USC and this staff, They're telling you, yes, NIL probably factors into every recruitment in the country now. If you're a 3-star plus kind of cat, have to believe that. Maybe 4-star plus, not sure where the threshold sits there. But having guys that have coached the NFL that can develop you, that matters. And I think that's a big reason why they landed these kids. Now, there's going to be a lot of folks now, and everybody says this whenever they have a recruit flip or they miss out on a kid or a kid commits somewhere that he wasn't expected to. The narrative is always, well, they must have just dropped a bag on him. They must have just thrown him an NIL stimulus check and got him correct, and that's why they got him to commit. I have 2 thoughts around this. One is, for these individuals, for a Justice Terry, for an Isaiah Gibson, who are as high-profile recruits as they are, 4- and 5-star respectively, like, they're probably going to have NIL opportunities anywhere they were to go. You don't think Georgia has their ducks in a row on the NIL front? You don't think the other schools in the SEC are ready to play ball on the NIL front? I promise you that they are. So if that's the case, if USC, let's just walk this through. Let's say that they were able to make the highest NIL offer, and that was a big reason why they committed. Again, I don't know the ins and outs of this whole thing, but let's just walk that through and assume that your accusation of them offering the highest NIL opportunity is correct. Well, then it's equal opportunity, right? Well, then who is that on? Is that on USC for being willing to play ball at the highest level to land top prospects? Or is that on your school for not being willing to make the moves that are supposed to be made to land some of this top talent? I don't know what's happening here, but if that's your argument, I would maybe be a little bit slower to speak so loudly about your school not being willing to operate at an NIL level to land top talent. So that's one part of this. The other thing that you're going to hear now as USC and Lincoln Riley start to add talent on the recruiting trail on the defensive side of the ball, people will be very quick to say, well, that's not going to translate. Hey, have all the players you want. You got Bear Alexander last year. I've heard you guys go and get big-time talent on the defense before. Like, it's not going to translate. And my response to that would be, how do you know? How do you possibly know what's going to happen for USC defensively next season? Well, they haven't been good previously. Okay, that was against a previous staff. That was a previous regime defensively for them. The individual who oversaw the defensive staff previously, oversaw the defense previously, is no longer there. So your assessment of USC is, as a brand and as a logo, you're making a definitive statement on what that USC Trojan logo is going to do defensively. When in reality, everything on the football field is tied to the individuals that accomplish what's happening on the field. Like, USC historically is actually really good defensively. There was a long period there where USC was in that LBU conversation. Brian Cushing, Clay Matthews, Ray Maluga, Keith Rivers, go back to Junior Seau. Like, USC's played defense now historically. So if you're saying, USC doesn't play defense, I would say maybe check the history books a little bit there, brother. Maybe do a little bit more homework before we decide that USC just isn't a defensive school. And you say, well, Lincoln Riley and his defenses haven't been good. Yes, his defenses haven't been good with him as the head coach, but look at who the DC has been. That DC is no longer there. I can't stress it enough. There is so much to be said for new energy, new approach, new vision from a coaching staff out to your meeting room and the impact that can have. There is no way to overstate that. And so now with Danton Lynn and Eric Henderson and the rest of this defensive staff that's new to USC having an impact, I think it's going to be massive, and I think you're going to see some dividends there. Now, will it be immediate? Who's to say? But I would maybe rethink that thought process before you make a definitive statement. USC doesn't play defense. The old USC didn't play defense. Danton Lynn wasn't a part of that. Eric Henderson, he wasn't a part of that. Last thing I'll say here, National Signing Day is a long way away. And so there's still a lot of room for people to say, well, they'll flip, they won't stick, this, that, and the other. And I'm not here to tell you what will or won't happen. I would just say that if you're able to keep Julian Lewis in the boat, your high-profile quarterback that's currently committed to USC in the class of 2025, if you can keep him committed, and I think landing this talent was a big effort in keeping him committed, that's going to help solidify this class and help you add on to this class. Also, having a strong showing in the 2024 season in the Big Ten to kind of provide some good faith for recruits and for the guys that are already committed right now would go a long way. But I think if you're talking about they're not going to stick or they're eventually going to flip, I just think you're borrowing trouble. And I think there's, for the most part, just bitter fans saying bitter things. But it is what it is. Hurt people. But USC, there's no way around it. In the time that we're in right now, and in the present we're in right now, as of yesterday, recruiting heater on the defensive side of the ball, landing top talent from a region of the United States that's known for doing some pretty, elite things when it comes to how they play on Saturday afternoons. So lock it in right here. Make sure you're subscribed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JD Piquel. Let me know what you think of USC and their efforts on the recruiting trail. Looking forward to hearing from y'all. Appreciate you. Love y'all. On the air tomorrow live, 11 a.m. Eastern. Going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.